Make sure the body is in as comfortable a position as possible, either sitting in a chair or lying down on the bed or the floor. Allow the weight of your body to settle down towards the earth, taking a few deeper breaths and letting go a little bit more on each out-breath. Try to let go of any ideas about how you think this experience ought to be, and instead allow the breath to settle and to find its own natural rhythm, letting the breath breathe itself. Now imagine that you are outdoors at dusk. It is still light out, but the sun has set below the horizon. You are outdoors, but take note of where you are. Maybe you're on a farm or in the mountains, or in the open prairie or on a beach. Just notice where you are as the sun goes down and notice what's around you. Notice the details of all that surrounds you. The sky is becoming darker. The highest part of the sky is a deep indigo color, becoming darker and darker as the minutes pass. This color blends into a lighter shade at the horizon. Notice the sky responding to the fading light. As the light fades, you notice that the air is slightly cooler now. It feels pleasantly cool against the forehead and the cheeks. Your eyes are slowly adjusting to the decreasing light. When you look up at the sky above, it stretches from horizon to horizon like a vast dome. Straight up above, the sky is growing darker. It is nearly black. As the light fades, you feel the thickness of the dark coming in to enfold you. The darkness is taking you to another place outside of this space and outside of this time. As the darkness comes in to enfold you, imagine or sense or feel it transporting you to a transcendental place where you can see the reality of all things. Imagine or sense or feel that this darkness is like a canvas for reality to reveal itself so that you can see it and even change it. In this space, you can look down at yourself, scanning your energy field and body, and clearly see and feel if there are any energetic cords that people have attached to you. When you notice them, just spend a moment feeling the pressure they put on you. Feel the tug and capture of them. Feel how they are hooked into you and feel where they are hooked into you. Feel the impact of them being attached to you. You may not know who attached them, but it doesn't matter. Just spend a moment really feeling the reality of the cords that others have attached to you and how by doing that, they have made you responsible for them. When you feel ready to release the heavy burden of the responsibility that they have placed on you, responsibility that you did not actually consciously agree to, feel yourself taking each cord, or even many at a time, and unhooking them, like pulling out giant fishhooks from your being. When they are unhooked, feel the incredible tension in the cord pulling you towards whoever they are attached to, like a bungee cord. They are not yours. And let go of each one, or even many at a time, allowing them to snap back to whoever they belong to. Spend a few minutes without my voice guiding you, purifying yourself of the tension of the cords that others have hooked into you in the way that I have described. Allow yourself to catch your breath here in this space, knowing that it is normal and natural to need a brief rest if this process has required some effort. Now standing in this place, feeling the darkness folding around your body, imagine or sense or feel the inside of your being. See if you can imagine or sense or feel the things that other people have made you responsible for that weren't yours to be responsible for. Imagine or sense these things as a thick and heavy sludge within you. This sludge is comprised of anything you accepted to take or were forced to take that wasn't yours to take in the first place. Maybe it was the blame you took, or the responsibility you took, or the shame you felt, or the image you hold of yourself that was in fact given to you by others. Just spend a moment feeling the accumulation and pressure of all these things that others gave you that were theirs to hold instead of yours. Now imagine that as you look into the darkness in front of you, you see your mother slowly appearing before you. You accept that the time has come to give her back what was always hers to begin with. Feel the pressure she put on you that was not yours to hold. Perhaps you feel the shame or blame that she deflected onto you and her projections. Perhaps you feel the weight of expectations and standards that she required you to hold. Perhaps you feel the burden of her criticism and disapproving looks. Perhaps you feel the responsibility she placed on you to take care of her needs. Maybe you feel the heavy torment of her negative and limiting beliefs. Perhaps she couldn't deal with her own emotions, and so she abandoned you in some way. And what you feel is the weight of being expected to deal with the way that she abandoned you. Just take a moment to really look through the awareness of whatever negative things belong to your mother that she made you carry on her behalf because she didn't want to take responsibility for them and resolve them and carry them herself. Feel how ready you are to move forward, both light and free in your life, with only those things that actually belong to you and no one else. You have made the decision to give her back what was never yours to hold. Now imagine or sense or feel yourself giving her back all of those things. It doesn't matter whether she is or isn't willing to take them back, because they're hers. She doesn't get to argue with that fact. Imagine or sense that you are scooping up the heavy sludge within you that is made of all of those things that belong to her, and you are handing that sludge over to her. At this point, you may notice her struggling to hold it all. It feels like too much for her, which is why she gave it all to you. Simply reassure her in whatever way you feel that she is capable of facing it and resolving it and holding it. Remind her that not all of what she is holding is actually hers as well. If she is struggling with the things you gave her back, that she is now forced to take responsibility for, remind her to give them back to the people in her life that gave those things to her to be responsible for. See her handing those things back to her mother and to her father. See them having to take responsibility for those things that were actually theirs, but that they passed down to your mother when she was a little girl. Now take a moment without my voice guiding you to acknowledge that whatever we feel unwilling to take responsibility for, we pass down to our children. Acknowledge that things like pressure and pain and shame and responsibilities and belief have passed down through your family line on your mother's side from generation to generation since the beginning of time. And take this moment without my voice guiding you to watch this process reverse itself. Watch as your grandparents hand what was handed down to them that wasn't theirs back to your great-grandparents, and watch your great-grandparents hand it to your great-great-grandparents, and on until there is nothing left to hand back. Feel the burden grow lighter and lighter as each person in the line keeps only what is actually theirs and gives back the weight of what isn't.
God, God, God,
If your mother seems to not need help with anything that is hers that she is now having to face and resolve, imagine or sense or feel transcendent helpers that she would feel the most supported by, coming to her side to guide her and support her in her own healing process. And once you have done that, slowly see the image of your mother fade.
God, 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 God.
Allow yourself to catch your breath here in this space, knowing that it is normal and natural to need a brief rest.
God.
Now imagine that as you look into the darkness in front of you, you see your father slowly appearing before you. You accept that the time has come to give him back what was always his to begin with. Feel the pressure he put on you that was not yours to hold. Perhaps you feel the shame or blame he deflected onto you and his projections. Perhaps you feel the weight of his expectations and standards that he required you to hold. Perhaps you feel the burden of his criticisms and disapproving looks. Maybe you feel the responsibility he placed on you to grow up before you were ready. Perhaps you feel the heavy torment of his negative and limiting beliefs. Perhaps he couldn't deal with his own emotions and so he disconnected from you or abandoned you in some way. And what you feel is the heaviness or torment of being expected to carry the weight of his absence. Just take a moment to really look through the awareness of whatever negative things belong to your father that he made you carry on his behalf because he didn't want to take responsibility for them and resolve them and carry them himself. Feel how ready you are to move forward, both light and free into your life with only those things that actually belong to you and no one else. You have made the decision to give him back what was never yours to hold. Now imagine or sense or feel yourself giving him back all of those things. It does not matter whether or not he is willing to take them back, they are his. He does not get to argue with that fact. Imagine or sense that you are scooping up the heavy sludge within you that is made of all those things that belong to him, and you are handing that sludge over to him. At this point, you may notice him struggling to hold it all. It feels like too much for him, which is why he gave it all to you. Simply reassure him in whatever way you feel inspired to that he is capable of facing it and resolving it and holding it. Remind him that not all of what he's holding is actually his as well. If he is struggling with the things you gave back to him that he is now forced to take responsibility for, Remind him to give them back to the people in his life that gave those things to him to be responsible for.
God. Soy la diosa del amor. God. Soy la diosa del amor. God. Soy la diosa del amor. God. Soy la diosa del amor.
See him handing those things back to his mother and to his father.
God. Soy la diosa.
See them having to take responsibility for those things that were actually theirs, but that they passed down to your father when he was a little boy.
God. God. Soy la diosa del amor. God. Soy la diosa del amor. God. Soy la diosa del amor.
Now take a moment without my voice guiding you to acknowledge that whatever we feel unwilling to take responsible for, we pass down to our children. Acknowledge that things like pressure and pain and shame and responsibilities and beliefs have been passed down through your family line on your father's side from generation to generation since the beginning of time. And take this moment without my voice guiding you to watch this process reverse itself. Watch as your grandparents hand what was handed down to them that wasn't theirs back to your great-grandparents. And watch your great-grandparents hand it to your great-great-grandparents. And so on until there is nothing left to hand back. Feel the burden grow lighter and lighter as each person in the line keeps only what is actually theirs and gives back the weight of what isn't.
Soy la diosa del amor. 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 Soy la diosa del amor.
If your father seems to need help with anything that is his that he is now having to face and resolve, imagine or sense or feel transcendent helpers that he would feel the most supported by, coming to his side to guide him and support him in his own healing process. And once you have done that, slowly see the image of your father fade.
Soy la diosa del amor. 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 Soy la diosa del amor.
Allow yourself a moment to catch your breath here in this space.
Soy la diosa del amor. Soy la diosa del amor.
Now allow yourself to take your own time to allow people from your past as well as anyone in your current life to show up one by one so that you can imagine or sense or feel yourself handing them back what is theirs instead of yours. Don't strain yourself to look for these people. Simply allow them to show up in this dark space in front of you. Know that your being knows exactly who needs to show up in order for you to give back what was never yours to begin with. If you would like to, I suggest that you pause this meditation now and spend as much time in your own process doing this now as you want to. And when you feel as if you have given back everything you need to give back to others, you can resume with the rest of this meditation. Now that you have given back what was never yours to begin with, sense how light and free you feel. Take a moment to feel how little of what in you was actually yours. Feel how confident you feel about taking responsibility for and facing and resolving and holding what is actually yours. Imagine or sense or feel yourself tip your attention up to the darkness of the sky above you. Imagine that you see a faint twinkling in the darkness beyond. As you look deep into this darkness, you realize that what you are seeing is the first stars appearing in the night sky. First one star and then another and another. See them twinkle, shining like tiny diamonds. Imagine that each one is like a promise of a future that feels good, a future that is free and light and that belongs to you completely. Feel the intense relief throughout your whole being as you look at them and feel what it feels like to be free of whatever never belonged to you in the first place. With this new sense of lightness, you can begin to reawaken your body and mind. Feel your muscles reawaking as you take note of your surroundings. Feel yourself slowly leaving this dark and starlit place to slowly return to the present. Move your muscles by wiggling your fingers. Open and close your hands a few times. Wiggle your toes and stretch if you want to, feeling your body becoming fully awake and alive. And take a moment to sit quietly as you reawaken completely.
Soy la diosa del amor. 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 Soy la diosa del amor Soy la diosa del amor. 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 Soy la diosa del amor.